Morning Tip.
Good afternoon. It is September 11th, 2023. You're listening to a little column A, little column B, hosted by Will Levinos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? Don't be concerned. The cavalry is on the way. We embarrassed ourselves over in Eastern Asia in the FIBA. We didn't medal. Pretty embarrassing. Lost Friday morning to Germany, the eventual winners. But news comes out today. LeBron is here to save the day. He has got all of the top USA guys all bought in. They're about to come to our rescue. There is not going to be a disaster in the Olympics. Don't worry.
Should I have been worried? Were you worried? Even with the results you have right now, are you worried?
Worried about the Olympics?
Yes. For Team USA basketball.
No, because looking back, I don't think we've medaled in the World Cup since, I think it was like 2014. So almost it's coming on a decade. And I feel like we almost do this on purpose. It's almost like a false flag of, hey, we're not sure if we want to do the Olympics. Send the B-plus team over there, see if they can handle it. And then they can't, because we've talked about this. The world is getting much better at basketball. We have to send our premier guys over there. And so then when we lose, then it's, hey, now we can bring in our real guys. They can be the heroes, and they can win for USA. So it just seems like that's our constant loop, because I think it was the last FIBA World Cup. I think we took 7th. It was really bad. And then we went to the Olympics, took home gold.
It does seem that it is a strategy almost to struggle a little bit with the B squad so that the A squad gets the notice that, oh, we need the A squad. Call in the A team. Call in the Avengers or whatever. Assemble. Let's do this. These poor guys, they can't get it done. And look, they're embarrassing our country. And it's, I think I'm more disappointed that I think there was a way for which this team could have been successful, and it just seemed like they
didn't play any defense.
It's a little bit. It is that, and I don't know if there was a lineup at all with any combination of them that was satisfying defensively to watch. It was kind of hard to watch, regardless of what lineup was in there. But what I will say is, I think there's a little bit reason to be critical of the lack of changes. Now we lose Ingram a little bit to an illness in the end there, and we do have something going around with the team. The other guys, Triple J got hurt. Or not hurt, he got sick as well, and someone else missed the last game against Canada. So there's a little bit of a side excuse over there, but I think there's also a poor construction of the team as well as a lack of changing that I have even more frustration with. The commitment to that starters through the entire thing just seems there's no proof that lineup was successful at all. If anything, there was proof that lineup definitely wasn't successful. I'm shocked that they weren't able to just say, hey, this isn't working, let's put in something else in here. Just out of the fact that there's too much respect to everybody on this roster, and they're not even the A squad. So I'm sure if LeBron just shows interest at all, that's enough to get other guys involved. Even if LeBron doesn't even play, I think even if LeBron's on the sideline, that's a win for us because he comes with a lot more that this team just didn't have. We needed a true leader. We needed a guy like LeBron to just say, no, this is the way it should go. This is how we should play. This is the lineup that it should be. And I don't know if we had that guy. I think we tried to nominate that guy. Do you think that it'll be enough to just add the talent that you're talking about or do you think there should be additional changes as well?
Well, wouldn't that be? What other changes are you thinking?
I am suspect of the coaching, unless those guys are going to get some guys on their actual NBA teams like Draymond or Bam, because they weren't able to change. They weren't able to make anybody a defensive guy at all, and I think they've been defensive coaches in the past, successful defensive coaches, championship caliber coaches, and I didn't really see that. Now it's a short time span, and I know there's a whole bunch of reasons on the guys that haven't played together, but I just think I didn't like the output on defense, and to give up a record-setting the last 3 games points that they've never given up before. All right, so the overtime game in Canada, it's 111 at the end of regulation. 127 at the end of overtime. Game before that, 113 to Germany. That's a loss. And then the other loss to Lithuania, that's 110 points. You're telling me Spoelstra and Kerr couldn't get these guys to give up less than that? It's not 12 quarters either. It's 10-minute quarters. It's just...
It's a shorter game.
This is a college time frame.
Yes.
All right, so I'm calling out the coaches. What I'm saying is, do you think there should be a change there? And if they're not going to listen to these guys, or maybe they just needed a LeBron there to say, no, you need to listen to these guys. I don't know what change needs to happen, but I'm circling that as something I don't feel very confident about going forward.
I mean, how are you not more confident than Steve Kerr? I mean, who he's the Warriors coach, so in the NBA context, I'm gonna poke at him, from time to time here and there. But as who is the the best coaches in the world? I mean, these guys are gonna be up at the top. I mean, Spoelstra every year has got Miami, in the mix with a range of different players. Can you name coaches that are better?
No, I couldn't come up with a better solution, which is why I'm disappointed in the outcome of this, because I think this is the best we got, and it wasn't good enough.
Well, the one guy, he's not a coach anymore, but I think he could help. Brad Stevens. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think he'd be interested, but maybe got to think about that. He had a lot of success. But I think one of the issues is like, what exactly are you looking to do? Is different coaches are better at different things. And Steve Kerr, he's really good at having like an elite team and making sure like that elite team runs correctly, balancing a bunch of guys that are making a lot of money, balancing a lot of success, continued success, and making sure these guys are still hungry. That's difficult to do. I think Spoelstra is a little better on the X's and O's, maybe not X's and O's so much as like the game plan of my team does not have more of the talent, but I'm going to put them in a situation to win. Usually the USA doesn't need that. And this tournament, we did, and it just was disappointing. We weren't able to use that to our advantage. I'm talking little things like when Lithuania just decided, like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to post up Austin Reeves out of nowhere and just make it so you can't play him. And there's not enough time for an adjustment. Just something like that in these games. I don't have the answer because I'm not an elite coach, but I would have thought that Spoelstra would be able to come up with something to pick on the fifth guy on Germany and say, all right, yep, you're going to do this. Well, we're going to attack this guy and a pick and roll or whatever it is until you can't play this guy anymore.
I can't disagree with everything you said, which is why I'm okay with the coaches that they have. I just wish one of them, or at least it felt like one of them, should have just stepped up and had the courage to bench somebody. There were too many games where we're universally playing everybody. Nobody's in rhythm, and I feel like we're respectfully allotting everyone like it's an all-star game of minutes when we're competing to win a game right now. Somebody is going to sit. Somebody's going to play. It doesn't have to be the same person every time, but this sampling of everybody getting their share, just I didn't like it, and then I didn't like that we kind of committed to it throughout the entire tournament. There wasn't one point where I was like, nope, this is the lineup, this is the rotation. And I don't know if they really put enough effort into searching and finding that lineup either. And I think that's one reason to be critical of it. You talked about the defense and Reeves getting switched and Bridges getting switched onto big guys. The rest of the world is still playing traditional post-up basketball. So for our roster to be constructed with a bunch of guys that are just really good at switching but maybe not the best post defenders was, I think, an actual mistake when the rest of the world, like I said, is still having an offense that functions through the post. There was a lot of times where we just got posted up and it just felt like this guy's the best guard that you could put on a center in the post, but it's not as good as an actual center guarding a center in the post. Is that enough to be said here? And I don't know what sort of American size we can add to all this, but I just wish we'd had at least one guy, or at least weren't shy enough to put Kessler in there to hit a couple bodies. Because I think that's all this team needed.
I don't think Kessler was the answer. I think it goes more to we were just playing everybody with not necessarily even minutes, but we're playing a lot of guys. And my thought was, if you're going to do that, play harder. And I know that's cliche, but when I say play harder, I mean pick up the guys more full court and trap them. When we trapped Lithuania at the end, we extended that game for so long. We weren't able to turn it around. But against Germany, I thought we should have been doing it with 6 minutes to go, and we didn't start doing it until 2 minutes, and we got 2 turnovers, which that's why it would end up being a 2-point game, where really it was more probably a 6 or 7 point game, but we were able to get those turnovers, where if we had started that earlier, and in the NBA, you're not going to be able to do it, because all these guys are world-class athletes. They know exactly, they could dribble out of anything, but I think these European teams, the whole team isn't still at that level, and all of a sudden you have Anthony Edwards coming at you. he's all over the place, and you're going to throw the ball all over the gym like you are a college athlete, because that's like the level of skill that a lot of these guys are at. So that I didn't like, but mentioned before, I'm not sure if you saw the article. It's not just LeBron. LeBron, he wants to do it. He's pretty confident he can get Anthony Davis to do it. Steph is talking about it, which actually I didn't realize. Steph has never played on an Olympic team before. So normally I would think, he's getting a little older. He's done this before. But if he hasn't played in the Olympics before, and this is kind of getting to be his last chance, he actually could be more of a candidate to it, as well as Steve Kerr as his coach. Then also some of the other guys, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Draymond Green. There's even talk Chris Paul might have some interest. I don't know if he could even make the team, but these are like all the premier guys, as well as we mentioned it last time. We got to start recruiting Joel Embiid, telling him, hey, you play basketball in America. You like America. Come over here. Don't play for the French team. Come on, play with us.
Well, it would be nice to get somebody who rebounds. I don't think there was a single guy on our team that averaged over 5 rebounds this entire tournament. I think, I don't want to pick on Jared Jackson Jr., but I think he only averaged 2.8 rebounds. Like, that's not great. It's 3 or 4 rebounds a game. That's it. That's all we're getting. That's not going to get the job done.
Look how many points we gave up. Just when you're giving up that many points, there's only so many rebounds to go around. If there's more misses, there's more rebounds. But it was we just did not lock in on defense. Anytime we needed a crucial stop, we just could not get it. And we just, I think, thought, well, it's not a big deal. We got more firepower. We'll just outgun them, and it didn't happen. And we went down by 10 points. Every game we lost, it seemed like we just fell into a hole, and it was disappointing. So I woke up on Friday to watch the Germany game. I was pretty disappointed about it. I didn't like how it just soured my weekend. I told you, I think it was Saturday, and I had already made my decision when Friday happened that I don't wake up for consolation games, especially ones that are at 4:30. You did wake up.
You're ridiculous.
What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on Canada versus the USA? Because my only real talk is I saw a couple of highlights, and I saw the final score, and I looked at the box score.
Well, first of all, if you're just a fan of basketball and knowing that you're probably not going to see a game as close or as competitive or with as much talent on the floor until Christmas, to opt out of it as if it was just a non-meaningful game and it wasn't just a good basketball game that you had the opportunity to watch, you missed out. You missed out because there was an incredible ending. If you haven't seen the Bridges,
if USA doesn't care about winning the gold medal, why should I care? They're those guys that are playing.
It's not about caring. It's about entertainment. I enjoy watching this. All right, I'm not on the team. I want the team to win, but at the end of the day, I'm enjoying the content that is in front of me. That's all this is content that I enjoy, and I want more of it, and I got more of it. It doesn't have to necessarily be as meaningful of a game. Like I said, there's a lot of talent on the floor, and there's a lot of trash talking going on. We got Dylan Brooks going on over here, who ends up with 39 points. 39 points for Dylan Brooks.
How do you give up 39 points to Dylan Brooks? He got laughed out of the playoffs. And he has had quite the redemption tour as he's coming into his new team this year. I think he's had the biggest turnaround. I think Shea played really well, but I think everyone already liked Shea. Everyone was pretty high on Shea, so I think he notched up a bunch. But remember, there were jokes, Dylan Brooks, about he was going to be playing for the Shanghai Sharks, and I shut that down. I said, there is no way. Like, come on, let's be real about this. But 39 points in a medal game, and I know we probably weren't playing all the way. You're playing in a third place game. It's hard to kind of get up for that compared to a championship game. But is there anybody else this summer that has had a bigger turnaround?
No, I mean, because it was pretty dark there for a little bit, and then he got a payday, and it was like, wow, no one else really must have. I don't think anyone else really put an offer out there near what Houston was willing to throw him. So,
and they threw him a lot of money.
And I'm excited for. I will say I thought his dribbling looked better. His shooting has looked better. It may just be an exception. An accepting of his teammates in Canada have been very, very supportive, and he has fit in, and they have carved out a role for him. I don't think he's truly like I didn't see as much as I watched. I didn't see a lot of plays where if I'm Shea, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe this guy's taking another shot again. They were timely shots. I didn't think nothing was forced, and I thought he played really, really well. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander though had one of the sickest crossovers at the end there. I Bridges played his hardest, and there's just certain players that are going to catch you like that every now and then.
Was it Bridges or was it Halliburton?
It was everybody. It doesn't matter. I'm sure everybody got a little bit.
I thought you meant the specific one where the guy fell.
He did. It was Halliburton, but Bridges had that amazing ending. Did you see the missed free throw? Do you know how this game ended?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sent it to overtime.
Okay, but you miss the free throw, you get the rebound, you dribble out to the corner, and you make the three.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, no, obviously not something you'd be interested in watching because they don't care, so you don't care.
See, this baffles me that you're saying this now, but there are going to be college basketball games in the not too distant future, and you're just going to have no part of them. And the competition level is going to be the similar, if not higher, and the basketball quality is maybe just like a slight step below.
How there's not one pro. There's not professionals. I like professional basketballs. I don't like weird turnovers and bad misses.
By the letter of the law, no, they're not professionals because they don't get
bad officiating.
What are you talking about?
All of that happens only in a level that isn't at a professional level. None of those problems happened in FIBA. None of those problems happened in the NBA.
The only reason that it's not professional is because of the way the NCAA does it. But you cannot. I don't know how you can say it's not professional on the. This is elite talent on the way towards the NBA, and they're not getting paid for it. But I have no idea what you're talking about. On the lazy
one college
coaching,
team would make it out of the FIBA pool. Not even one of them could qualify. There's a reason we don't send any of them over there anymore. Is because they would look like the group we just did, and the group we just did has been in the league for way longer than all of them. They're way stronger. They're way heavier. There's just so much maturity into it all.
You should go and look at some of those rosters and look at where those guys played college ball.
Yeah,
not the USA team; those are like the premier guys. But some of the other teams, it was a treasure trove of. Oh yeah, I remember that guy from a few years ago. Oh yeah, I remember this guy in the tournament. And now they're playing overseas.
Yeah. Guess what? Good basketball players are pretty good most of their life. All right, we go back to their 6th grade team. I bet we can find some highlights there. Also, it's just a level of quality I don't appreciate. It doesn't mean they're not good. It's not as good as the other one. I'm gonna go with the better one every single time. I'm not saying there isn't talent there. There's just more at the other spot. There's more in FIBA. There's more in NBA. There's more in the G League. I thought you were
a fan of basketball. I thought you were a fan of basketball, and that's what you wanted to do. And you're not going to be able to see good NBA until Christmas.
I don't
so what are you going to do the first week of November?
This is way better quality basketball than any of the college stuff. I know you.
It is not. It's not even close. I watched
Look at the players that are on the floor. It's nowhere near the talent that I'm going to have in a single college game this whole tournament.
I would very much argue that.
There's like
the USA.
They have 7 NBA players on Canada. Our entire roster is NBA players on USA. There's not one NBA player in college. Like, how is this even an argument?
Well, yeah, because you can't play there yet. But you got.
Well, then what do we mean? You can't exactly. That's the biggest point right here. Of course you can't say they're professionals.
Because the NBA wouldn't allow it. They literally put a rule in place to make it so you had to play a year in college.
And they're doing them a favor for that because half of them aren't ready, and they'd be screwed even worse off than they are. They can get the money that they need in the college. They can get better, and they can get better and grow up to be in the NBA, and hopefully if they're qualified enough and good enough, they can make a FIBA team because we need that. But that doesn't mean I need to watch them all winter while they're getting prepared for the level that I'm going to eventually watch them at. Look, if they're good enough, they're going to make it to the league that I watch. That's fine. I don't need to watch them beforehand.
Well, they're conveniently placed at like 7 and 9 o'clock. They're on the weekends, during the day, so you don't have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to watch them. So it is available.
Yeah, they give me way too many headaches. There's too many things that coaches just lose hair over. That's why I can't watch college. And I didn't lose nearly as much hair watching FIBA.
Name a European coach that you would take over the premier college coaches.
Well, the Germany guy only had 3 weeks with this team, and he just won the whole damn thing. So that sounds pretty good. He didn't know he was going to coach. There was the Canada guy. Sorry, it's the Canada guy. He got a bronze medal.
Canada guy.
It was supposed to be Nick Nurse.
It was supposed to be Nick Nurse, right?
It was supposed to be Nick Nurse. It ended up not being Nick Nurse, and he ended up getting the most out of Dylan Brooks. Like, if anything,
don't you think there's something wrong with a tournament where Dennis Schroeder is the MVP?
Yeah, but I mean, I think
who is Dennis Schroeder playing for this year in the NBA?
I know this too. He got traded. He's in Toronto. He's in Toronto.
I'm impressed, and the only reason I know it is because I just listened to a podcast right before this with Zach Lowe where that was mentioned. Where if you had asked me 2 hours before that, I couldn't have told you. He's been bouncing around. He was on the Celtics, and he was an absolute headache. It was just so frustrating to watch him play, and it's just baffling.
This might be a little bit of let Russ cook kind of thing here, and when they let him cook, he looks pretty good. Nobody in the NBA is going to let him cook because there's way better point guard positions. It's a hard position to compete in. I think it's the most competitive in the NBA is the guard position right now. Not to mention there's so many score first people that it's hard to say Dennis Schroeder at the age that he's at and the size that he's at that our best odds of winning are to go at this. Now, what he does do very well, though, he does run the pick and roll very well. And if you have a guy that you can do it with which was Daniel Tice for a good majority of this, I thought he was a perfect wingman type of ball handler to go along with Franz Wagner. I thought they had a lot of good things going. This was a good setup for Dennis Schroeder that I don't think any other team in the NBA would set him up for, at least not at this point in his career. But if you were to do it, it'd be like similar to setting everything up around Westbrook. Like there's ways to make guys look better. This made him look better. I just don't think an NBA team could do that and win. But you could in FIBA.
Yeah, are you ready for me to put a nice little bow on this?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you were joking how Embiid may be joining our team, and I wanted to put the fear into everyone else about the possibilities of the players that could be joining other teams. Canada could be adding Jamal Murray, who just won an NBA championship in Denver. That's an idea. Serbia, which finishes second here, there's a guy called Nikola Jokic, who also just won an NBA championship, who could be joining that team. There's the wild card of Embiid not joining USA.
Do you think you could get him away from the from the horses during the summertime?
No, but part of me thinks that, again, if LeBron says he's signing up, that's going to encourage, guys like everyone else is going to feel like they should go as well. And if
I hope so. I would like that.
I think everyone would. It would be really fun to see. I would love to see Jokic play. I would be scared of this team, especially if we don't add any size, because he could destroy our lineup. Like, what's the lineup right now that could stop Jokic on the roster we just had?
You could it's not just our roster, it's anybody in the world. I mean, he's been unstoppable the past couple of years.
So that's interesting. There's a variety of other players that can end up on teams and join, but those three specifically, I just thought were like, okay, Canada was pretty good. They had really good guard play, but if Dylan Brooks was not shooting so well, and if Lou Dort wasn't hitting a corner three, Jamal Murray and Shea, that sounds pretty reliable with the other two as options, and a whole bunch of other things that could happen as well. Just throwing those out there. You go ahead. You could put a bow on all this now. I mean, I was going to spend another 10 minutes on Daniel Tice, but I think that's maybe for another show.
See, we're heading in the same direction. So, we didn't medal, but want to congratulate Germany on winning the World Cup, and specifically former Celtics, Dennis Schroeder, Mo Wagner, and of course, Daniel Tice. Tice is nice. The war on Tice, it continues, and we fight it every day. A guy that I definitely miss having on the Celtics. Not really so much the other two, but it was nice seeing Daniel out there. He was just always I like watching him play.
He plays a good game of basketball. It's a shame he gets zero respect. It is constantly in foul trouble throughout the NBA. One of these days, he's in Houston as well, right?
I'm not sure where he ended up this offseason.
Well, anyway.
He was on the Pacers last year.
Well, we'll keep an eye on him. Congrats to them. It was a hell of a tournament. I still think there's plenty of talent there, a lot more talent than college. But we can continue to talk about the amateur collegiate level in their amateur football league. That they had some games this weekend, right? This past Saturday. Tell me a little bit about
Saturday.
Every
Saturday in the fall.
Oh,
yeah.
Every Saturday. Very consistent. It's a shame I always miss it. I always forget it on Saturday. Let's start with I suppose the big news. You want to start with Texas taking on Alabama now? And doing some things that don't happen a whole lot, especially this early in the year, and that is Alabama losing?
That is exactly what happened. Texas went into Tuscaloosa and came out with a win. Texas is back. They were, I think they were ranked 10th, so it wasn't a massive upset, but anytime you beat Alabama, so Alabama's going to have their work cut out for them to try to get back into the mix. We know from the past that they definitely can. Kind of unexpected. The other headlines, Notre Dame won again. And then Colorado overcame a sluggish start against rival Nebraska, but they ended up thrashing them. You have mentioned you are only going to be on the Colorado bandwagon as long as it's just racing along. So that's two pretty big wins in a row. Are you more likely to get on the bandwagon this week, or are you still just seeing if you want to hop on?
I dabbled. I watched a little bit. I say I forget about it on Saturday, but I had the game on for a little bit. It was extremely boring first half. That it was like, all right, well, this is a little bit more.
Especially the first quarter.
This is a little bit more of what I kind of expected, especially with the amount of pressure being on here. It's hard for anyone to say we have nothing to lose anymore when you kind of still have nothing to lose, but it feels like they have everything to lose now with the kind of spotlight on them. So it was nice to see them kind of show up and do that. I do worry about. I mean, is Dion going to be able to do pregame? Like how many more games we got here? And this is just one season. Like, could you just record these and play them next year? The pregame speeches have been phenomenal. I'm sure other coaches have really exciting ones. It's just nice to see them being promoted through Dion, and I'm pro for it. I mean, I think this is exciting. This is certainly what I think you would want in college football. Anyone who's tired of the same couple teams winning every year, it's somebody trying to make something out of a college that isn't always recognized in that way, doing the best they can week after week to get as much attention as possible, and certainly helps when you win. And Nebraska's certainly not the worst win of the year. So shout out to them. The train moves on. Do you know who they're on to next week? Is it? Do they get to take a deep breath, or are we still? Is it the whole season like this?
I'd say it's a little bit of deep breath just because it's a late game. They're playing at home against Colorado State, and that's going to be at 10:00. So just might be you're kind of out of the public sphere a little bit. But I mean, if they keep rolling on, if it's not this week, soon they're going to have College Game Day come in there. They're going to have whatever Fox's version of that is. They're going to keep rolling. I don't think Colorado State is very good, so they should be able to get a good win there based on the performances that I've been seeing so far. Started the season unranked, and they're up to 18th in the country, so something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, is Alabama in trouble, or is Texas probably actually good?
I think Alabama's in trouble just because in college, if you lose one game, you could dominate the rest of your games and still struggle to get in that 4-team playoff. Where basketball, there's more games, you can lose one early, you got plenty of time to recover. So it just could just be by the numbers.
All right, little hypothetical. Let's say Alabama wins out, which is possible. They've done that. They do that kind of stuff. And let's say Texas finishes top 4. How high does Texas need to finish for Alabama to really have a little bit of an argument here? Although what do we expand this to 8 now? Is it 8 teams?
No, not yet.
It's still 4?
It's still 4 for a while.
So that's going to be tough. But I'm saying if Texas finishes, one of these top spots, let's say they finish 1, is that strong enough for Alabama to still have a case? Like I always wonder all this, especially like you said, it's kind of 1 and then until someone else screws up that 1 either is worth a whole lot or isn't worth as much. Like if everyone gets an L, it's all fair game again.
They'll be right back in the mix.
Yeah.
If it's one of those years where everybody has one loss and Alabama lost to Texas, and the rest of the time, because that's one of the times where it doesn't make any sense. But I feel like if you lose early in the season, it's like, what have you done for me lately? So then towards the end of the year, if you lose, that's just is more in the front of everybody's mind. Even if it's a worse loss, it's just, or even if it's not as bad a loss, it's just that it's more recent, so it makes it worse.
Any other games we should keep an eye out for this week?
Unfortunately, no. I took a look at the slate. I mean, if you're into college football, you're gonna have a good time. But we're this week, the Texas Alabama 7:00 prime time. That was the one to watch this week. There is not a lot of ranked teams going against each other, so maybe a good apple picking day.
All right, last college football question here. How many times are they going to storm the field for Colorado this year? Were we 2 for 2 already?
How many times is too many times?
At what point are they qualified?
At home? No, they weren't at home the first game, right?
It doesn't. It was an absurd. It was an absurd upset. I'm more just saying at some point I've talked about this in the past where you reach a certain level of respect where I don't think you should be allowed to storm the field or the court anymore, and they're still very much on that lower echelon. But at what point do they qualify as, no, you're a football school now? You only do that when you beat like Alabama, and that's it. Like,
I think that they have struggled for a while. I can't remember. I don't know if it was the 80s or the 90s, but they were good. They had a stretch. I think there's even like a 30 for 30 on how good they were. But for a long time afterwards, like, you could be, a grown adult and have not known Colorado football success. So I think that allows, especially with college kids, where those are the ones that I've never seen Colorado with multiple winning seasons. That, yeah, when you beat your rival, which they haven't played Nebraska in a while, yeah, you get to storm the field.
All right, all fun stuff. Anything else for college football?
Nope, that's it for this week.
All right, on to the pro stuff, which as much as I enjoy it more, I do not have very happy results with our pick'ems of last week. Both Zach and I picked all the games last week. You can listen to the podcast on any of our streaming platforms, Spotify, our Facebook website, Little Column A, Little Column B, our Twitter, X, or whatever it's called. I gotta work on that. What are other people calling that? I listen to all these podcasts. Do they just not advertise X anymore, or is it still called Twitter?
It's X.
It's X.
It's just you forget because it's been Twitter forever, and now it's something new. So it's just a matter of it just like anything. When it changes the name, it takes a while for everybody to remember. And like X is kind of weird. It's almost it's a letter. It doesn't seem like a new name. It's almost with the streaming where it's on Max. It feels weird saying it, even though it's correct.
Well, it does feel weird saying this, where we kind of have a 50-50 shot on all these picks, and you go 7 for 8, and that's not just me, that's you as well. It's a very unexpected week 1, full of all sorts of drama. I'm kind of excited to go through our picks for week 2, and then maybe touch a little bit on the results of week 1 per team as we go through here. So let's just kick things off with week 2. The first matchup I have here is the Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Minnesota was a team that I tried to argue would be better this year, and the fact that they'd won so many close games last year that they would be a better defense, and that their offense isn't terrible, and that they don't need anything spectacular in this division. And all of it just let me down last week. But it was like, this is the most fakest team in the world. They're doing the same stuff they did last year, where it's like it looks great when it works, and then it looks like they have no idea what they're doing. They always come up with the turnovers at the worst time, and it's always like the time when I suddenly put faith in them and that they do something stupid, and I lose faith in them. Philly in New England, I think we can get a little bit more on the topic of how well New England played, and we'll maybe touch that when we get to New England. But I thought Philly still did a lot of things well in that game, and I thought New England had an effective half on slowing them down. But Philly's a superior team, I think, over everything I saw week 1. Even in that, I think that credits New England even more. I'm taking Philly, no brainer here. Is there anything at all that would ever convince you to have any faith in Minnesota right now? Because I'm at that point already where it's 1 week and I'm like, I've seen this show before. Why would I ever have faith in this team?
Just gotta throw it out there. This is Kirk Cousins. It's Thursday night. This is prime time. There should be like big red flashing lights, as well as I mentioned this in the preview. I said last year, I don't remember what the record was, but was really good in one-score games. This was a one-score game. They end up losing this one. I just don't think they're going to have that luck from last year. It's just going to even out. And here's your situation where last year, this flips the other way. And I think we're going to be looking at this in late November, early December, going, man, the Vikings, if they could have just, one thing here and there, they could have had a good record. The same way last year, you just looked at it and go, how does this team have such an amazing record? So that's what I think is going to continue. I will also be taking the Eagles on Thursday night. Yeah.
Any comment on your
first game on Amazon Prime? So anybody, if you're looking for the game, got to remember that's where Thursday night games are.
I didn't really give you a chance to talk here. Any comment on your week 1 performance that was also a 7-8?
I'm really, fingers crossed that Buffalo is going to win tonight, and then I can at least pull to 500 and, just try to put it behind me. Got the short-term memory. I'm hoping to do better in week 2.
There are games that I felt really good about that were close, and I did get right, but could have easily gotten wrong. And then there were games that just couldn't have guessed any more wrong about anything here. There's certainly challenges, though, where there's an opinion that I have formed about the team going into the year, and it's kind of like, all right, this is what I thought you were, and then there's what I've seen recently of last week and just last week alone. Like which one are you? Are you what I think you could be, or are you what I just recently saw this past week? And I'm going to say that with this next matchup right now, where the Green Bay Packers on Sunday will be at the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta, Bijan, Algiers, excellent running game. They are 2 for 13 on third down. They are not throwing the ball a whole lot. They did rush it a ton, and I don't know if I trust their defense. But the Packers, I'm just going to assume that the Bears are terrible. I really am not ready to give them any sort of crown or credit of anything and just say that the Bears are still a complete mess, and that is a result of the Packers being 1-0. I'm still in on Atlanta. I think the running game is the only thing I could trust in either of the matchups of all this, and I think Atlanta has two guys that run better than anyone. Aaron Jones might have tweaked a hammy at the end there. I think that factors in a little bit, and I'm not sure if home field factors into anything at all. Kind of a struggle week for all the home teams last week, but who are you going with this week? I'll take Atlanta.
I'm going with Green Bay. I don't think either of these teams are particularly good. I agree with your assessment that it might be Chicago is really bad. Justin Fields did not look good. I was not a fan of his performance. I thought that Jordan Love, I thought that he looked okay, and I just don't think that the Falcons they can't throw. You mentioned the running backs, and I made a note that Bijan and Zay Flowers are rookies that both look like they're the real deal. Zay Flowers obviously playing for the Ravens, but they didn't really throw the ball. It was halftime, and I think Drake London and Kyle Pitts had one target, and then by the end of the game, Pitts had a couple of fantasy points, but Drake London had a goose egg. And again, this is the same thing with this coach when last year when they'd ask him about Pitts and saying like, "Hey, are you gonna involve him anymore?" And he continues to just go with, we'll let the fantasy guys worry about that. And then you just like. You're just shocked of like, I get it. You're trying to be the tough football guy, and I do real football, and this is fantasy, and that's for the nerds. But it's like if your player scores a lot of fantasy points, that's also good for your team, like 99% of the time. And you drafted this guy like high. If you're not going to use him, why'd you draft him so high? Why don't you draft somebody else? So. That's why I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think they're just a little more balanced. I have not heard the Aaron Jones update, but hopefully that was just a little tweak on a long run and not something more major.
On a victory touchdown, that's got to be the worst. Like you did everything right, and you're going to pull it and just walk right into the locker room right after.
Ugh.
Not fun. At some point, someone's just going to sell out on Atlanta and just say, "All right, so we're going to just bring everybody in." If they throw it over the top of us, well, that'll be the first time they do that.
Stack the box.
Yeah. So I could see that easily happening week 2. I'm curious to see if they finally unleash any sort of aerial threat at all. Like they're very much similar to Chicago, where it seems like they're throwing the ball out of protection. Like they're only throwing the ball to throw it away, never to actually complete a pass. And that's not how you should run an offense. At least that's not how a lot of other teams run their offenses. All right, next game. Don't know what's going to happen with Buffalo tonight, but week 2 we got Las Vegas at the Buffalo Bills. I really liked what Jimmy G did. I thought Jacoby Myers played really well for them. Had a bunch of good catches. Former Patriot. I think there's hope with having Devontae Adams still on this team and Josh Jacobs. It's not the worst starting point. I actually went across and I looked at a bunch of teams that I think have huge question marks at quarterback, and I'm like, why didn't they go after Jimmy G? Like, why didn't Atlanta just go after Jimmy G? Like, what was the fear in that? Like, isn't that just what everybody wants? Just somebody steady? I don't think he's going to take you over the top to anything, but he's a safe bet. And I think there's a lot of teams that can't risk having not a safe bet with the amount of talent they have out there. So I'm giving the Raiders some credit here. All that being said, I'm still going to go with the Bills. I don't know what they're going to happen tonight against the Jets, but I just think that this team has Josh Allen and the other team doesn't. If you don't have Josh Allen, I think your next best bet is to have a guy like Jimmy G. So I'm all right with the Raiders of the 1-0. I'm not that upset by that, but I'll have Buffalo in week 2. Who you got?
I'm also sight unseen going to go with the Buffalo Bills, and also sight unseen since it went so well last week. This is going to be my lock of the week.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to do that. I need to see Buffalo play before you're gonna go blind on 2 weeks.
Sight unseen. Yep.
You're just gonna say this is mine, and I'm gonna claim it right now. This is a victory here. And
just gonna send it.
So you're having them as a 2-0 victory here. I don't know if that's very Patriot friendly here. Are you trying to win the pick'ems, or are you trying to root for your team?
Well, we haven't even got to the Patriots yet.
All right, let's see what Buffalo has going into tonight. I'm not sure anything's going to really alter it. Like, what's going to happen tonight that's really going to change anything? It would only just be an injury, right? That's the only thing I think that would scare me from really locking that in.
I mean, there could be some sort of Joe Burrow performance out of Josh Allen that just throws a lot of questions out there. But I think it would have to be more of an injury.
All right, next matchup I think is the perfect example of. Well, we had an opinion about these guys until we saw them week one, and now I think your opinion could either be altered or you're just feel misguided on your original opinion. Like that could be completely wrong, and that is the Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals. Lamar, not a great game. Zay Flowers, sure, give him some flowers, but that's about the only thing I would give the Ravens. Of course, they have the worst luck of their normal tradition of losing a running back in their opening week, where Dobbins tears his Achilles and is not coming back. And yet the crazy part about all that is that's not even the wilder headline, where Cincinnati just has a complete dud offensively. Complete dud. No points, no success, nothing I could say good about all of this other than they have these guys that were once good on their team. I don't know. Is there a right answer to all this? Like, do you feel confident towards either of these teams? I want you to pick first on this one, because I flip-flopped every single time. I could say, like, their defense is fine. They have a better consistent offense. But based on what I saw last week, I have no confidence in either of these teams, and somebody has to win. Can I double down for extra points on a tie?
Well, we talked about this last year. You always want to double down on the tie, but there's no way to put that into the system. And it'd just be a mess trying to track that throughout the year.
Lock of the week, it's a tie. Is that not how this works?
See, yeah, there you go.
No. I'll take Cincinnati. I don't feel good about it. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati. I think that the Ravens got dinged up. It's going to take them a little while to figure out how to recover, and I just have no idea. I think this is going to be one of those games we look back on for the Bengals, and just like these guys have been good all year, but then they lost to the Browns, like got destroyed by the Browns, and it's like, what's going on? I think maybe it's just Joe Burrow didn't play in the preseason, and I don't have a good answer for it, but I think Cincinnati will win. They have Joe Burrow, they have Jamar Chase. I think they're just going to figure it out, and this is going to right the ship for them.
I thought this was the hardest one to argue out of all the picks this week, was to argue for either one of these teams, where it's like, based on what? Because it's there's nothing there. It's a whole lot of history, but based on what we saw last week, that seems like old history. It'll be interesting to see who bounces back this week. Next game, Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. Seattle, I was so in on Geno last week, and you were so out on him, and then it was so fun to be riding that bandwagon throughout all their victories and into the playoffs last year, and then I just felt like it was everything you'd ever said bad about Geno Smith happened like the past week. It was all back. It was like all the baggage just piled right back on. All the receivers weren't able to come through. The defense wasn't great, and I'm starting to scratch my head on whether or not I'm in or out on all this based on 1 week. I've still seen a lot more examples of Geno not being great and only one season of him being pretty good, even if that is the most recent season. I think there's reason to be concerned here. I thought Detroit's offense was steady enough. You mentioned rookies. I'm kind of in on Gibbs. He's on my fantasy team. I think he's certainly a highlight out there. I don't think Detroit's defense is anything to brag about. I think it's improved on last year, but I think it's still good enough to beat Seattle at home. So I'll take Detroit at home. Who you got?
I'm also going to go with Detroit. Definitely was a surprise that they were able to knock off the Chiefs in Arrowhead, but I did not like what I saw out of Seattle. I am just still not jumping on anything going on with Geno Smith. This is kind of more what I expected kind of all of last year, and it just not good to lose that at home with the 12th man against the Rams, who coming into this year no one thought was going to be very good, and it really wasn't much of a close game.
LA Rams may be better than we assumed, or at least if you're a Seattle fan, you better be hoping for that, and that's certainly news to everyone else across the league. News across the league right now in the next matchup here, Los Angeles Chargers are playing football, and they are trying to win games, and yet they somehow always find ways to lose them. We're going to tune in next week to see if that happens again, where they take on the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, I talked so highly of like, oh, hey, Tannehill will be better. Tannehill can't be worse. This team added offensive weapons, and that they still have a really, really nice running game. Derrick Henry's still there, and they're all actually healthy. And Man, this was so disappointing. Like I think Cincinnati was the easy dud of the week, but if they had just been their normal self, I think we would be picking apart Tennessee, saying, I can't believe you didn't take on Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody else or just address anything, because it seems like the team's ready to go. Tannehill's not ready to take him there, and that their next best option is a guy that's never done it before at all. How do they end up set up like this? I don't know. The Chargers being as suspect as they are, they at least put up points, and I think that'll be enough to win this matchup. But, you never know, man. You can never feel safe picking the Chargers, even with the lead, even with the clock. Clock has to hit 0 before you're like, yeah, we actually won. There's no early celebrating in L.A. ever, and I hope they get to celebrate a little earlier this one, and I will take the Chargers on the road. Not feeling super confident about either one of these, but who you got here?
I think with the Chargers, I don't even think you could say when the clock strikes 0, because I can see a situation where the clock strikes 0, but then there's a flag afterwards or something dumb happens and the clock struck 0, and then they still turn a win into a loss. It's so frustrating because you warned me about this last week, and you said, well, aren't you concerned about the Chargers charging? And I was like, well, yeah, there's always a concern, but I think they'll be fine. No, that's exactly what they did. They have the ball under a minute, they're going down, and then they just mismanage the clock and give Tua and the Dolphins the ball back. They got Tyreek Hill out there who's running all over the place, and then they just give away free points. All you had to do was just not call timeout immediately, wait, I don't remember exactly what the time was, but 25 seconds, kick the field goal, and then they wouldn't have got the ball, or if they got the ball, wouldn't have had time to hurt you. It's just like, it just always seems to happen to the Chargers. But
again,
again, and
I couldn't imagine being an actual fan and like watching this. Like I joked about how I like watching basketball. This is an enjoyment for me. This wouldn't be enjoy. This would be punishing. This I can't think of a more punishing way to lose games or be a successful team that doesn't win games. Like that's exactly, I don't know what category that is, but this is a successful team that doesn't win games. Like it's an oxymoron in the NFL because it doesn't make any sense, and yet somehow I'm picking them again this next week. So I don't know what's wrong.
Well, and that's the reason that I'm picking them, is because going against the Tennessee Titans, and Ryan Tannehill didn't even complete 50% of his passes and threw 3 interceptions. So I'm thinking that even the Chargers are going to be able to take advantage of that. Herbert is good enough. The defense will just survive enough. And even though they're going on the road and west to east is never the best, I think that they're going to win.
Look, if Tannehill is he just even a little bit better than he was last week, they'll be a lot better. He was terrible last week. It's just average.
Bad.
Just average would be fine. They don't need, a spectacular Tom Brady performance here. They need like a last year Brock Purdy performance. Just don't turn over the ball. Like, just be fine. All right, next matchup, Chicago Bears at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to shock myself a little bit right now and assume that the Bears are just really bad, and I thought there was actually some nice things to say about Tampa last week. I wasn't excited for this team going in. It seemed like this was a perfect tanking season. We'll bring in Baker. It will look like we put in some effort, but we didn't actually win any games, and maybe we'll trade some of the offensive weapons, whether it's one of the receivers or who knows what, or maybe some guys on defense. I thought defensively this team looked pretty good, and I thought Baker wasn't terrible, and Evans is healthy, and Godwin is healthy, and that's a lot more than I could ever say about Chicago, where, I mean, they got all these draft picks on defense last year. It looks like it looks like they just have a whole bunch of holes everywhere, and that's why I'm taking Tampa at home. Here we go, 2-0 Tampa Bay, right? Who you got?
I'm also going with them. I think maybe I tried to bury Baker Mayfield a little too fast. He was out there. He was doing stuff. He did not look like a shell of himself or anything. It's like, all right, okay, this guy, wants to win. He's out there. He's trying to make things happen. And I don't know. Maybe it's been I just thought if Mike Evans isn't absolutely dominant with Tom Brady back there, then it's never going to happen. But maybe it was some of the was dinged up in the past, and I was kind of down on him with all the contracts, issues kind of going on. So it's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's very happy. But based on that, look pretty good. And I think it's going to be pretty close. But I think if they can get ahead, I don't know if Chicago can play from behind. Justin Fields, I don't know. It's like they're trying to turn him into a passer when really his best thing is running. So it's just I don't know. Like, how long do you force? Hey, we're going to try to turn you into a passer when you're good at running and just steer into the skid, if you will.
Well, I'm not sure DJ Moore is quite ready for the Tyreek Hill workload that he needs to be for this team to have a first down. Like, not even a touchdown, just a first down. There's not enough there. It's honestly, it's unfair to Fields that this is what they've put around him, and this is the best that they can do. It doesn't seem like they're ever going to be in a position. They're always going to be down, and they have the worst sort of offense to be down in. It's a bad situation. Tampa Bay 2-0. Who would have thought? Next game, Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chiefs did lose opening night to Detroit. It was a close game. I actually wanted to credit Kansas City. I thought they played pretty good defense against Detroit. I think it's easy to say they lost and that they're generally not the most highlighted defense ever. They score a lot of points. And they have Patrick Mahomes, and I know some injuries are still happening, but I haven't lost faith in this. I actually thought Kansas City played really well. I think Detroit's an above-average team. I wasn't really willing to buy into all the hype, but I thought very similar to the Patriots, there was points where Kansas City slowed down Detroit, and I think those gaps will add up a lot more this week when they're able to slow down Jacksonville. I'm going to take Kansas City on the road. I'm not into Jacksonville. I could be completely wrong every week about this, but I'm not in on them. I'm happy to see Ridley back. I was wrong about that. Right, you got your touchdown. Right, he's going to finish out the rest of the year strong now. Right, everything's back to normal. Nothing could ever go wrong with him. It's rock solid. I'll take Kansas City on the road. I don't buy this team at all. Tell me why you're picking Jacksonville if you're picking them.
I'm not picking Jacksonville. I was shocked that the Chiefs didn't win that game when they got the ball back with like 2 minutes to go and all they needed was a field goal. That just seemed like prime, back in the day when Tom Brady got the ball and all he needed, it was like, if he needed a touchdown, it was like, all right, this is good. This is probably going to happen. If he need a field goal, it's like, all right, yeah, this is a lock. We're for sure going to win this. I would have put just oodles of money. That's like, oh, this is what Mahomes does. Like, you gave him too much time. He's got timeouts. Like, oh, this is a lock. And then his receivers. I mean, Kadarius Toney had one of the worst games as a wide receiver that I've ever seen. Just, I know it like kind of just stacks on itself, but just so rough. And even on, I think the fourth and long, there's pretty much no chance. But I think it was even the third and long. It was just a drop pass. It's just like, how does this happen? So I'm really hoping that Kelsey is able to come back just before the podcast. Chris Jones redid his contract. He's definitely coming back to play. I believe if it was going to be a year, it's still a year. I think maybe the money is generally the same, but now there's way more incentives. But he's definitely going to come back and play, and I think that is going to help. But I also will echo what you said, that I like that Calvin Ridley is back. I hope that he continues it, and it's not just a flash in the pan where then you're laughing at me in 2 weeks and saying, hey, remember you thought Calvin Ridley was going to be good this year? So far, so good.
Yeah, I don't trust that line at all. I don't think I just don't think anyone has enough time to do what they're trying to do there. All the weapons they have need time to get open, and there's nothing quick about it. Like, there's like a pattern with like Miami, the way Tua plays. It's almost predictable where it's like 1-2, and he's whipping the thing out, and that's kind of how I think they need to be, and they're not playing that way. He's scrambling a little bit more. Lawrence is scrambling a little bit more than I think he should be, and I just worry about him getting hurt. It just seems like if you're scrambling quarterback and that's where you end up and not necessarily where you want to be, that's not a good place to be. And that might be similar to this next matchup here, where Indianapolis at the Houston Texans. Is Richardson even going to play? Is he hurt? I believe he's going to play, but he took some hits a little late last week. Man, there's some electricity in those runs, right? Like that's something.
I liked the way they looked. For a rookie, throwing a touchdown and running for a touchdown. I mean, you can't really expect too much out of a rookie QB in your first game. You play in the preseason, but the regular season is just a totally different animal. Yeah, he did get dinged up at the very end, but at least in the post game conference, he said the loss hurt more than that injury. So obviously, that was right after the game. We'll get something probably tomorrow or the next day on if he's okay. But I would assume he's going to play.
I'm thinking he's a little banged up. He might get banged up again, and that's hardly a reason to pick Houston. They might even be better off with a backup over there for all we know. But I'm going with Houston at home. I think both these teams, you would assume, are trying to lose, but Houston doesn't really have any reason to lose because they lost their pick or whatever for the next year. So I think they're going to put out a better effort than what you're going to see out of Indy. Indy was very competitive in week one, and I thought similar to Fields, where it's exciting to see Richardson run for his life, but he's very much just running for his life. There's maybe one Pittman play that was able to bail him out a little bit, but I'll have more faith in Houston. Who you got?
I'm going with the Colts. I liked how Anthony Richardson looked better than how C.J. Stroud looked.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just, I'm not sure if he's even going to play. I wouldn't be shocked, and it wouldn't shock me if they were a little careful with him as well, right? Like if he was like, he's a little dinged up. Well, should we play him? Should we not?
Do you know who will start if he doesn't play?
It's Minshew, right?
It sure is. Minshew mania. Look out.
So like that may be a reason that I think they will win. I think Minshew can win this game. And I'm not saying Richardson can't. It's just a little riskier. Is he still rocking the mustache? I saw him he looked like he had super long hair. I didn't really get a good look at his under the helmet.
I only saw him on the field. I didn't see him afterwards for what the facial hair was.
Yeah, well, we'll get an update on that. Minshew mania lives on. I don't care. I think he's the most well-known backup there should be in the league. So, next game, San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of nice things I could say about the Rams. They had 0 turnovers. They had 27 first downs. They had 1 punt. All nice things, and this is all without Cooper Kupp and I don't know what else to say other than McVay doing some McVay stuff. It seemed to happen week one. All the nice things I could say, and I'm still going to think the Niners are going to probably beat them by a whole lot. I thought the Niners offense was phenomenal. I was very impressed by it all. McCaffrey, even Kittle getting some action in there, doing all sorts of tricks. And I think this could end up being a high-scoring game. I wouldn't count the Rams out entirely, but I think the Niners are definitely a better team, and I feel better about picking them. So I'm going with them. Who you got?
Give me the Niners. They stopped the Steelers, and this could be one of the ones in the next 2 weeks. You go, oh, the Steelers are really bad. It's not the 49ers are really good. But I think that the 49ers were good last year. This isn't coming out of nowhere. But, boy, I think out of all the teams that I've seen so far, I think that the 49ers are coming out looking like one of the best teams.
Next game, New York Giants at the Arizona Cardinals. Well, this is one where you want to just forget everything that happened week one and act like this is the first game of the year and that you have high expectations for one and very low expectations for another, and that's the way this should play out. And that is the New York Giants put up 0 points last night in a complete, I mean, I don't even know what the word to describe. It was a 40+0.
Debacle.
0 points in the first half, 0 points in the second half. The B bench for the B defense was in for Dallas in the second quarter. Like Micah Parsons was just sitting on the sideline enjoying himself, I think, for a little bit. While they got beat up by guys that weren't even they can't even play ahead of him. And I have a hard time saying that the Giants should win this game, but I think the Giants are going to have to win this game and try to win this game, and I'm still going to go with them based on absolutely nothing other than I'm going to forget week one and assume that they have a better defense and a better quarterback and a better offense than anything Arizona has. And I'm not sure if any of that's true right now, but I'm going to hope that it's true. And because, I mean, are you picking Arizona? Like, because I can't do that yet. I don't feel that unfaithful in the New York Giants, but I don't know. Is Dobbs going to do it this week?
Let's get weird. I'm going with Arizona.
Oh, I love it. I wanted to do it. I couldn't do it.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know what happened last night, but I know how the NFL works, and it's always just what happened the most recently, and it's not even like Arizona's very good. But I just want to pick against the Giants, and so I will take Arizona at home. I'm
gonna be upset if Arizona wins and I didn't have the guts to pick them, but you did, and I'm generally the gunslinger over here that just picks the wild card one, and you win on my own game here. I don't know if I like this game anymore. All right, next one. New York Jets at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys played that Giants team that's trying to forget what happened yesterday. They are not trying to forget that. Excellent game. Great defense. Powered offense. I just don't see how the Jets haven't played, so this is a bit of a blind pick. I don't know what happens tonight, and maybe they put up a bunch of points and upset the Bills. I'd be shocked if that happened, but I think Dallas looks very focused. You talked about San Francisco looking lock and loaded. I just thought defensively this team is going to be a threat for everyone, and it's only be a matter of how far you're down points offensively. A lot of weapons. I like everything in Dallas. I'll take Dallas. Who you got?
I'm also going Dallas. They look good, and it's a sight unseen. They're going to be playing at home. Defense, special teams look pretty good.
Next game, Washington Commanders at the Denver Broncos. Russ didn't look bad. I actually thought that this team played good enough to win week 1, and I think they'll play good enough to win week 2. The Commanders, Sam Howell, it seems like he's going to play more games, and that's as much of an opinion I really have on him right now, is I just need to see more, and I've seen very little of a successful Russell Wilson offense right now, but it wasn't the worst offense. They didn't have any turnovers, and it just wasn't bad, which I think that's all they have to be. It's just not bad. I think you got to try to go the Jimmy Garoppolo style and just not be bad and hope that maybe Russ can make a big play when you need it and still have that in him. But it was a bit of a tale of two halves where they were pretty good in the first half and not so great in the second half. I got Denver. Who you got?
I'm also going with Denver. I have in my notes Russell Wilson wasn't awful, so there's my compliment for him. What'd you think about the onside kick to start the game?
The Stones are doing it, and then they got it. I was up screaming, jumping up and down, and then they called it off, and it's all happening in red zone in the opening. So there's like 12 other games starting at the same time, and so much other things going on that it was a bit of like, all right, they got it, and then it was on to the next highlight. And it was like, oh, we flash back, and they didn't get it. It's like, oh man, that's a bummer. It didn't seem like it didn't cost anyone the game, so I just give credit to being able to play through all that. I don't think they lost because of that, right? Like I wouldn't pin it just on that. And they almost got it. It was a good kick. Like I think that's the pressure of your kicker. I know there's a lot of pressure of like, hey, you got to kick this, but this is a 5% chance and we win the game. To start off the game, it's like, no, you're setting the tone, bud. Like you kick a bad kick here, and we may be screwed the rest of the game. I thought it was a good kick. It was a competitive shot at it. It's not an easy thing to do, and God, does it take some stones to go for it. I had nothing else other than that.
Yep.
Next game, Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. I loved everything the Patriots did. I thought Mac fell into a rhythm. I thought the defense calmed down and was able to slow down Philly to enough of giving us a chance to get back in the game. I thought Kendrick Bourne got open, and Mac was doing a little dink and dunk. He doesn't have to always make big plays. He just can't turn over the ball. I thought Zeke was very steady and reliable. Stevenson was sick and still had a pretty solid game. I think he'll be probably used a lot more in future games. But overall, I thought it was a very, very well-coached New England Patriot team that's going to play in a lot of competitive games and win a lot of close games this year. My biggest worry is that this game will not be close and that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua are going to put up 466 yards, which might be more yards than we put up in the first 3 games. I'm a little worried about the points here. I'm going to take Miami on the road. Again, I don't like that I'm picking Miami to be 2-0 and New England to be 0-2, and yet I still think this is all going to work out for New England and down the road here. But I think for the moment right now, Miami is really healthy, and this is a hell of a punch coming our way. I got Miami on the road. Who you got?
I'm going with the Patriots. We had so many opportunities to win that game. There was some questionable going for it on fourth rather than kicking a field goal that I didn't all the way agree with. But we started in such a hole. We they were running right through us on that first drive, and then we were able to bend and not break to force them to kick a field goal. But then afterwards to have a pick six, and then immediately right afterwards to have Zeke fumble it. It was so frustrating. It just so fast. You're down 16-0, but then to have it where didn't give up, didn't get in a deeper hole in that second quarter, and it was just seeing Mac start to throw it around and make some passes. And Hunter Henry had that great fourth down catch where I have no idea how he came in with that. And then even the final play of the game, it was fourth down. You got to throw it past the sticks. We did that, and you can't get much closer than that. I mean, you just got to get your feet down. But
twice, twice he didn't get his feet down. I mean, all right,
it's just,
I don't want to pick on him, but I'm going to kind of pick on him. I mean, what's like this is an amateur outside looking in right now, but like, what is the one skill the receivers need to be good at? It's sideline. Like I see them toe tapping drills all the time. This is This is what we do, just even joking around. You throw somebody a pass, they toe tap just for fun. It just seemed like it just wasn't consciously aware that he should toe tap, and it was like a college catch where he catches it in stride like he's running through first base. Like what? That's just not excusable. I'm a little upset. It bothers me, all right, in that he didn't even remotely make an effort to toe tap. And maybe I know completely nothing about any of this, but he didn't toe tap twice in that game, and he cost us in 2 great plays where if I'm Mac, I'm like, look, I put a lot of faith in you. These were 3rd downs, 4th downs.
Put the ball right there. Yeah.
And I gave you a chance. I gave my team, and everyone is so hard on Mac constantly for being either not giving him the leash to throw the ball or saying he's not capable of throwing the ball, and he's finally doing it, and guys are dropping passes, getting picked off, and guys are not getting their feet in bounds. I know the coaching staff is going to see it through the way I'm seeing it, and I'm confident that Mac can come back from all of this, because I think in past years, if these things had happened, we would have put it more on Mac, and I don't think that's quite fair. I think out of the respect that I saw the first week 1, I'm feeling a little differently about him, and that's a really good feeling for a Patriot fan that I haven't had in quite some time, right? Like there's a little confidence I feel at the quarterback position. There's a little comfort level that we haven't had. Even like this is the best I've seen Mac play, right? Hands down.
I think so.
So that's an exciting point. I'm sure Zeke will be better. Stevenson will be better. The defense showed up. I think Kendrick Bourne is finally looking like the guy that we thought he was, and one of the guys that the Niners let go as well. This guy could have been a Niner if they kept him. It's just amount of offense over there in San Francisco that they just breed them all over there. All right, you got New England. No shocker there. We'll keep an eye on that. Next game, New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. You know, I picked Carolina to be pretty successful in this division, and I just thought the youth of the unknown would be better than the known thing about New Orleans that's just not that sexy or not that attractive of a pick. But I'm sticking with New Orleans because I don't think Atlanta was really that good, and I thought Carolina looked terrible against them. So, like, what does that say about them? Not a whole lot of nice things to say about either team here, but Olave might be injured. I think Derek Carr is just a way steadier driver that I could trust for a week-to-week basis. So I'll take New Orleans on the road. Who you got?
I'm also going to go with New Orleans on the road. I did not like what I saw out of Carolina, where he agreed like the Falcons weren't supposed to be very good, and they didn't show anything. So I'm gonna just go where I saw a little bit more out of the Saints and go with them.
All right, last game of the week here, and I think this should hopefully be an exciting one. If you're Pittsburgh, you got to bounce back. Cleveland Browns are coming to town, and they're quite the offense and defensive punch right now, where they have a great week 1. I think it was shocking that they were borderline dominant. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It seemed like it was all kind of adding up to a little bit here, where they have a good running back, they have some draft picks on defense. This should all just come together if Watson isn't just garbage. And he was far from that. There was moments where I was shaky and nervous about it, of being like, dude, he hasn't scored. This offense isn't doing anything. And then it loosened up a little bit, and it happened. Versus if you're Pittsburgh, nothing happened. It all went wrong. This was outside of the Giants, I think, week 1. This is the other team that needs to forget everything that happened week 1. I don't think there's one positive. There's not one positive thing to take away from Pittsburgh week 1. It all went wrong. It all happened too quick. It was over in a second. I'm taking Cleveland on the road based on all of that, and I still think Pittsburgh can come back and have some success. But if that's not the case at all, if they're remotely close to what they were last week, they're nowhere near ready to compete with Cleveland. And I'm taking Cleveland on the road. Who you got?
I'm also going Cleveland on the road. Watson looked okay. It wasn't terrible. And it was just like a lot of you weren't Joe Burrow just being awful. And they literally had to put the backup in. And I thought Myles Garrett was looking really good on the defensive line.
It's exciting time for Cleveland, man. What if it happens? Like, what if Watson is solid in this all? Because it's so much easier if this all just works out. Because if it doesn't work out, I don't know what you do if you're Cleveland, because I think you have a roster that's ready to go and nobody to plug in here. And I just don't know whose phone start ringing and what options you're left with. Your best option is you just hope that this works. And so far, week 1, it worked. And they got a shot.
Yeah, I just don't see Kenny Pickett staying upright long enough to really make anything happen.
That's a shame. I was in on them too. Any fantasy advice, pickups, advisories, emotions from week 1 that you would like to share?
This is what I got for the people. This is a little new segment that I just invented. It's very original. I'm sure no one thought about this. It's called Fantasy Zeros and Fantasy Heroes. And would you like to start with the zeros or the heroes?
Let's start with the zeros. You seem way more excited for that.
All right, for Fantasy Zeros at the quarterback position, it was Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. For the wide receivers, it was Jamar Chase. And then these are actual zeros, not just they weren't good, 0 fantasy points. And that is for T. Higgins, Drake London, and Sky Moore. For the running backs, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson. And then for the tight ends, Dallas Goedert, who also 0 points. And then in parentheses, I just have Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. So just the top of the tight end pool was just hurt. For defense, the Dolphins, they got you negative points, as well as the kicker, Graham Gano, who if you had started him, he got you -2 points.
Okay. Not so happy week for those fellas and anyone whose teams they were on. Do you have some good news then? Do you have some heroes for us all?
So for the fantasy heroes, and what I try to do for both of these is it's not just who played the worst. It's the idea is that these were guys that you could have started on your fantasy team. So for some of the heroes, you had a guy that was like some of the tight end, the tight ends. It was like they were projected for 3 points, and they got 15 because they got 2 touchdowns, but like no one was starting them. So trying to get guys that are fantasy relevant. So for fantasy heroes, Tua. For wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, and Jacoby Myers. For running backs, Aaron Jones and Tyler Algier. For the tight ends, there was none. For the defense, it was Dallas, 35 points. That's no defense is going to beat that, right?
No.
And then coming out of nowhere, the Arizona defense. I don't think that would have been one of the premier starts. You're going against Sam Howell, but you're just thinking, hey, both of these teams just aren't very good, but yeah, they played pretty well. And then for kickers, Jake Elliott, he very much outperformed his projection. So those are your fantasy zeros and fantasy heroes for week 1. Obviously minus the Monday night game.
Anybody we should be picking up this week? Any injuries that are?
Definitely have to keep an eye. Well, J.K. Dobbins, like I mentioned, torn Achilles. He's definitely out. I'm trying to think. There's a guy on the Rams. I think it's Puka,
the tight end. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like somebody that's going to be worth taking a look at. But I haven't. I don't really take a deep look at who to pick up until Tuesday. If we want to make that more of a segment, I can look at that ahead of time. But just kind of like as the week finishes out, see where everything kind of sifts through. Where with football, different from basketball, you don't have to kind of be on it all the time. You have all day tomorrow to take a look, do your research, and make your moves and put your waiver claims in without worried about somebody sneaking in early and stealing them.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Puka. I believe he was the tight end that got all of the receptions over the tight end I started in Tyler Higbee. It just never seems to work out the way you want it to. But yeah, we'll see if we can kind of keep that going right now. I don't have a whole lot of fantasy advice despite winning a whole bunch of ugly. These were matchups where I was crawling and barely made to triple digits and only won by single digits. I do not feel dominant or confident about anything from week 1 other than Christian McCaffrey's really good at football.
Oh, look who's come around. Who would have thought?
I was fortunate enough to have him in just one league, and I have not had him on my team before, but I will say the joy of week 1 where it is like, oh, wow, he just does this, and it's nice when
it's fun, isn't it?
It's nice when he's healthy.
He's just bumbling around, and then it's all of a sudden it's a 40-yard touchdown. It's like, oh, those are all points for me. Oh yeah, that was fun.
There's a lot of I think there's some fun offenses to keep an eye out for out there. I think there's going to be more scoring week 2 is my guess. I thought week 1 fantasy wise was a little bit of a slow start, not entirely shocking week 1, but I think week 2 we'll hit our stride, and I don't think you'll see nearly as many goose eggs, and I think you're going to see a lot more points by some of the dominant players of this past week. So that's really what I would say. Just have some faith in everybody you already got. It's a long season. It all adds up. It's a money ball game, all right? Everyone's going to get better. It's going to be all right.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. And I hate to see this over there. I'm all for being strategic with the defenses out there, but you don't need to have more than one of those on the team. It's time and place. There's a lot of better players out there you could have on your roster instead of a defense. Just some advice. I saw some teams out there. Right? This is charity, right? This is courtesy.
It's very nice of you. And also remember to take guys that are injured out of your starting lineup.
Also great
Just
advice.
helpful.
It's
just a helpful hint. It's bad enough getting goose eggs from guys that are actually playing. You don't need to give yourself goose eggs. I know the Ringer Fantasy Football League, I don't think they play it, but they've talked about if you get a goose egg, you have to shotgun a beer. So that'd be a lot of shotgun beers if you're starting injured guys.
Oh no, that's I do not have a good beer mile update, but I'm aiming for October 2nd as a rough estimate. I don't know. I don't have any of the details to provide. It's fine. Anything you want to add for the people out there?
Go Pats!
Ah, man, I can't believe I picked against them 2 weeks in a row, and last week was exciting. There was a real chance where I felt like we were actually competing and had a really good chance at winning that game, and I have nothing but nice things to say about Philly. So, what does that say about us? Let's see if we get the job done. To hell with Miami. I'm tired of watching Tua and. Oh, man, Tyreek's so fast, man. He's so fast.
So fast.
We'll be back next week. Thank you, as always, for listening.
Little column A, little column B.